The Late Night Legends podcast is meant for an adult audience only. It may contain sexually oriented content. Content may not be suitable for sensitive listeners. Please be aware of your surroundings. Listener discretion is advised. Watch out.
Welcome to Wowins. Welcome to Late Night Legends.
I don't know if I should cut that out or leave that in.
I think you should cut it.
Should we do? Do you want to do over, or do you want me to just leave that in?
However the spirit moves you, however you feel. If you feel that's on brand, okay. It's the brand. It's the brand now. Welcome to Late Night Legends, where our chaotic energy is your problem, not ours. We are so excited to bring you here tonight to give you even more chaotic energy talking about our spooky tales. I am Joan, one of your Late Night Legends. I'm still not good at this, so we're going to go through it. We also have Jessiy, who's presenting us a story tonight, Kim, and as always, Frank is also in the room.
Yo. So awkward.
I'm sorry.
I think after 10 years doing this shit, I'd be less awkward, but nope, you'd be wrong.
I don't think I'm helping. I feel like I'm bringing the energy down. I'm so sorry.
You're good. It's just it's funny because like I'll talk to Jessiy and Kimberly about like how to do this shit. Yeah, you'll get comfortable someday.
Someday.
It'll never happen. It'll never happen. Okay, guys.
I'll make it a point to figure out how to say hello. I'll learn basic greetings by the next episode, I promise.
All right.
It'll be a task I'll give myself.
Updates. Joan is here on her night off out of Mercy. Kimberly, Jessiy, do you guys have anything that is going on that you want to talk about, to plug otherwise?
I mean, I'll kind of say, what I did last week about how I'll be at the Crucible on February 18th in Madison, Wisconsin next month for the Madtown Paranormal Expo. I'll be doing my Reiki healing and sound healing and stuff like that. So I'll be there February 18th.
I will just say that we have multiple hosts in the middle of the United States and the East Coast, but I'm the only one on the West Coast. So if you're over here by me and you would like to be a host, please apply. We can probably put something in the notes of this show on how to do that, but please apply so I can have a buddy and go get coffee or something.
If you are listening to this or watching this right now live, you can actually apply right now. You can go to latenightlegends.boo. There's a link near the top in the top menu of like links. There's one for join our team. Right now we're looking for a host that can double as a video editor. That's my wish to Santa Claus. If you know Adobe Suite, great. If you know DaVinci Resolve, even better. If you kind of know those things, but maybe are not an expert, but you got them installed and you don't know what you're doing when you're using them, I can totally teach. I'm Adobe certified to teach. So I'm happy to help out. With DaVinci Resolve, it's even better if you're somebody that dabbles in that or you want to learn that, because in real time we could both use the same project because it's awesome like that. So that's why I want to do DaVinci Resolve. But outside of that, announcements here, we do have a legend that's starting with us. They're on the calendar to have an intro episode in a couple of weeks. I know we're having a team meeting soon to sort of talk to that person. We're kind of keeping it on the hush right now. And we've got that person on a special host project. And so the host that we're looking for, that hopefully is in Kimberly's neck of the woods, is going to join that person exclusively on their special project. So very exciting. It's a special project that if you've been listening to us for a long time, you'll kind of know about it and you'll be like, oh yeah, y'all were going to do that. Yeah, we're going to do that. So we'll announce it as soon as possible. But if you wanted to see that person, I think we've got him lined up for last week of January. And then next week, I think we're doing tarot cards, right? Is that right,
Yep.
Jen?
Yes. We're doing tarot card readings.
Paige Senpai and possibly Stormfrog. I hope Stormfrog also will join us, and we're going to do a reading with them, and then they're going to draw the 10 of Cups or whatever that card is. What was it? It was 6 of Cups?
The one that like I find upsetting? 5 of Cups.
5 of Cups. Something
10 of Cups is like the wish card, so that'd be a good one if they want to pull that one. They could pull a wish card.
Pull a 12 of Cups. I don't know anything about these cards.
Pull the 12 of Cups. Go ahead, see what happens.
Cups. Kimberly, pull the 12 of Cups.
Oh my gosh.
I will also be giving a brief history about tarot, so hopefully Frank doesn't say pull the 12 of Cups ever again.
Yep. I think Jacob Mayfield would be very upset with me. Also, we gave away his book. That person is going to be receiving his book very, very soon. I don't know when it's shipping out to that person. Congratulations. I think her name is Erin_does_art. If I'm not mistaken, that's her Instagram handle. We also gave away Sin Schrader Hill's book to that person. I'm waiting on a photo from that person to put on our social media. So that's really cool. The giveaways were great. And then also, I just wanted to say really quick here that if you're in the northern half of the United States, like most of us are, please stay safe from these storms that are ripping through the area. We were actually going to do a Super Balls episode last week, but I was without internet. It didn't cut my power, but it cut my internets. I know that today, I don't know what the temp is like where y'all are in New York and Lafayette area, but here, when I was walking to my car at 5:45 in the morning, it was -7. And my car did not like to drive in that weather.
We don't have lake effect, but we did go from like 40 degrees to 20 degrees, which is a significant enough drop that I got. That's a big drop. I admit we don't have lake effects, but it's a big drop, 20 degrees from one day. And I went, I'm cold. I'm cold.
What's the coldest it gets out in Jersey there with you?
When we're not feeling the effects of global warming, or like
in a standard winter, you got your coldest week, right? What is like?
There hasn't been a standard winter here in 50 years. No, we don't get to like we're like below freezing. We have like snowstorms quite often.
It sounds like
no, but we don't have lakes. Like we don't have big lakes to have that. Like
you guys got the ocean over there. You guys got the Atlantic over there. Yeah, so doesn't that cause things to, I don't know, what am I, a meteorologist? Listen, I know that it's cold here. Jessiy can tell you that at least for usually this week and for the next week, I think this is probably the coldest it pretty much gets here. Yeah, yeah, Jessiy?
Yep, pretty much.
It's been very brutal. Kimberly, how
We-
cold? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say when we had that like Arctic blast or whatever, like almost 10 years back, I remember it being, because I was a ski instructor at the time, I remember it being so cold. I was leaving the ski area and the wind was blowing on my eyes and it made me tear up. And then the tears were freezing on my face, so that really hurt. So I'd tear up further, and it really wasn't helping the situation I was in.
Wow,
So that's
ski
probably the
instructor,
coldest I've ever
lifeguard?
been.
Ski instructor, lifeguard. What other secret careers are you guys hiding? Who was a lifeguard? Somebody was a lifeguard. Was that you, Kimberly? Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like for one season, but yeah.
Hey, it's still. You know what we should do? Because I actually applied at one point in time to be a stunt car driver. We should put like a cool little quiz, like, what are the crazy odd jobs that our legends may have had or maybe did? I never had that job actually, so I'm different. But Jessiy, have you ever had like a crazy job?
I repoed cars.
Oh, you repoed cars?
Yeah. And I worked at an insane asylum in Elgin as well.
Shit. Okay. I don't know if that's what. Well, still important work, but
I worked at one of the top 10 haunted houses in the United States.
Oh, that's cool.
Jessiy, they got this water park out by Kimberly. It's like a plane that they decided to decommission and turn it into a water slide.
Oh my god.
That's fun.
It's actually super fun. I'll have to send some photos in the Discord, but yeah, that's where I was a lifeguard.
I was gonna ask Kimberly, how cold does it get by you? Because I imagine it gets pretty cold by you. You're up by Canada there.
No, so I'm in Oregon, so I'm like, we're like 6 hours from Canada where I'm at right now, and it, like, exactly where we're at doesn't actually get super cold, but this year is definitely like the coldest it's been in 10 years or something. I think yesterday it was 15 degrees, but with wind chill it felt like 4, and that's actually really rare. But tomorrow we have an ice storm coming in and we could get up to half an inch of freezing rain. So
What's the coldest that it gets in winter usually? Like, what's the bottom temp where you're like, it's only gonna go uphill from here?
the coldest I've ever experienced, I believe, was 11.
Wow.
But that's it, and that was really cold. I don't know if I might have experienced closer to 0. I don't know if we've gone negative in my lifetime. I could be wrong, but we don't
But
go negative.
You've been on the West Coast, right? That tends to have a little bit more of a, like, I know people hate to hear this, but like, it's a different kind of cold.
Oh my gosh, I hear that all the time. It's a different kind of heat. It's a different kind of cold. But we're also only an hour away from the ocean, so people say that kind of helps keep us more steady.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, like, having family members who live out in Colorado, it is a very different kind of like cold, because like the wind will hit you on the east, and in Chicago as well. I've also been to Chicago in February. Like, it'll hit you and you're like, that's my bones and joints that it just all went through, and I'm wearing 5 layers. Why did it do that?
Yeah, it's been the last 2 days.
I believe you got family in Colorado. Your hat checks out. Confirmed. I think in my lifetime, the coldest that I've ever experienced was 2004. We actually had not wind chill, legit minus 25 degrees. I think it was minus 25 and it hit minus 28 that particular day, and they closed down school that day.
Were you not here a couple of years ago when we got that like polar vortex and it was like negative 45?
Yeah, they're
That was
closing
wind chill,
Chicago
though.
schools left and right.
Chicago schools are closed tomorrow, actually.
Good for them.
Oh.
No, like, it was that one year, like, had to have been like 7 years back,
I think
maybe
it was
maybe
like
5 to 7, where the winds were so bad. They're like, don't take your small dogs out in Chicago.
That was
They will be picked up by the wind.
2018, I'm sure. Jessiy,
Okay.
you confirm 2018?
Well, I know there was one in 2021 because I was in physical therapy after having a surgery, and my physical therapists were talking about that, and I was like, are you guys going to be open tomorrow? And they were like, yeah, we might, keep your phone handy, we might cancel. And they canceled all the appointments that day because it was like negative 45 with the wind chill and all that. It was crazy. I was like, okay, good, I'm glad I could stay inside.
Moral of the story, Everywhere's warm but here.
Pretty much. I've been like going back and forth, like, how's Boston? How's Salem? How's Plymouth? Man, it sucks here.
Boston would be awesome to go to.
Yeah. It's warmer
Boston would be fine. Other parts of Massachusetts in the winter, I do not suggest going to, but
Oh yeah, the really hilly areas. When we were up there, we saw signs, you know how there's like deer crossing and stuff. It was like snowmobile crossing. That's how they get around in the winter, snowmobiles.
Yeah, it's like nothing like that over here. Like even when it was 15 degrees yesterday, it was still really mild. It didn't feel that cold.
Mhm.
You guys got the rain where you're at. I feel like it rains a lot there. We don't have a lot of rain here.
We have a lot of rain, and then when we get snow, like we never get lucky and just get snow. It's always snow and ice or just ice. And like we were supposed to get a foot of snow, but it really just came in as an inch of sleet that just froze. And then tomorrow we're getting up to another half of freezing rain. So we can't ever just enjoy the snow. It's always ice.
Maybe the bright side of things on that note is that at least here in Chicago we have 4 distinct seasons, and we will get snow, and we will get to make a snowman, and we will get a hot summer day. Okay. I think we're good with the weather.
That's the weather report brought to you by Late Night Legends. Speaking of places that have multiple seasons, in New England, they often have a 5th season called mud season. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. But we are going to New England. Where are we going, Jessiy? Tell us what's happening.
We are going to the Bridgewater Triangle in southeastern Massachusetts, which I actually visited. So when we get to the correct section, I'll share a couple stories and stuff, especially the one where my skeptic fiance had his first full-blown paranormal experience. And he admitted that. And he's still like, I'm still a skeptic, but I can't explain that. So call it whatever you want. So the Bridgewater Triangle, just so everybody knows, I could not get to my notes in my computer with some technical stuff. So I did as best as I can. If I like grab a piece of paper, it's because I'm looking at my handwritten notes, but I did get some good stuff compiled together. So just so everybody knows, I was prepared, but my computer said no. So the Bridgewater Triangle was actually coined by a cryptozoologist in 1983 by his name is Loren Coleman. He published a book called Mysterious America. In it, he described a 200 square mile region in southeastern Massachusetts with a long history of strange paranormal activity, and he called it the Bridgewater Triangle. There's reports of UFOs, Sasquatch, Thunderbirds, which are like huge birds. Native Americans actually believe in Thunderbirds. Big cats, huge snakes, ghosts, and cults. There's actually quite a bit of like satanic cultism, whatever you want to call it, down that way too. It stretches from the towns of Abington to the north. Freetown is the south border, and then Rehoboth is the west border, even though Fall River is actually kind of in that as well. Does Fall River ring a bell for anybody? Fall River, Massachusetts?
Negative.
No? Okay.
Don't, does that ring a bell? Okay.
That is Lizzie Borden.
Yep.
That one I do know. That name I know.
Yeah. Yep. Which I got to go there as well, the Lizzie Borden house. It was pretty cool. So Fall River, Massachusetts, that's where that happened. Which people kind of say Fall River is in the border. So most of the towns that are known that are in the Bridgewater Triangle are Brockton, Raynham, Taunton, Bridgewater, Mansfield, Norton, and Easton. It also touches 2 counties, the Bristol County and the Plymouth County. So one of my favorite areas is called the Hockomock Swamp, which the indigenous people, the Wampanoag tribe, called it place where spirits dwell. So let's see. So before the English arrived, obviously it was indigenous people, the Wampanoag, used that for like fishing and hunting and stuff. And then other indigenous people are known to have lived in the area because they found like artifacts that are 9,000 years old in the swamp. A lot of people call this the heart of the triangle. So a little bit of history of the swamp is the Native Americans, they revered it for the bounty that it produced with like game, fishing, and a lot of herbs and water as well. And then it's also been used as sacred burial grounds. The Wampanoag both worshipped and feared the area, as the chief deity of death and disease called Hobomok, Hobomock, was said to dwell in the swamp. Among many Algonquin tribes, which we have Algonquin up here, like the town.
Ew.
So yeah, it's kind of funny. Hobomok was often destructive evil and usually in opposition to, I'm probably going to butcher this, Kawatanowit, the great creator god. It's also the largest freshwater swamp in Massachusetts. It encompasses about 17,000 acres spread across the different towns and stuff that I was talking about. So in the 17th century, the swamp was used as a fortress by the Wampanoag Indians against invasion by early English settlers during, it's called King Philip's War. So King Philip's War pretty much is, there was the main Native American named Massasoit. He's the one that befriended the colonists, helped them plant stuff, and they traded all the time. His son was Metacom, or also known as Metacomet. And after his father died, him and his brother went to England to get English names. So Philip was given to Metacom. That's why it's called King Philip's War, because after Metacom's father died, he was chief of the Native Americans. So King Philip's War. Let's see. Pretty much that, let's see. King Philip's War also created the first Indian War and was an armed conflict in 1675 and 78 between the Native Americans and New England colonists and their Indian allies. Philip, or Metacom, was the second son of Massasoit, the longtime friend of the English, and upon his death, his brother Alexander, in 1662, he became the head of the Wampanoag. Believing that his people had been wronged by the English leaders. What? Oh, I thought you said.
No. You froze for a second.
It was a dramatic pause done by your own computer.
Oh, bad computer.
You're good. It just froze for a moment.
Okay, we good?
I think so.
Okay. Where was I? Okay, so since Metacom was feeling that like his people were being wronged by the English, especially Plymouth, and he saw that his people were being driven like further and further westward from their like areas, and they were being put in restricted quarters, he pretty much was like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this anymore. So on June 24th in 1965, a group of Native Americans fell on the town of Swansea, present day, I think that's what it is in present day Massachusetts, on the eastern side of Narragansett Bay. And they killed 9 people and wounded 7 others. That's kind of what started it. King Philip's War is the bloodiest per capita in the history of the country. 3,000 natives were killed and 500 Englishmen were killed, including like women and children on both sides. In 1676, King Philip was found at Anawan Rock and was, I think, brutally killed. And I don't know, like explicit warning here. He was beheaded, drawn, and quartered, and his head was left on a spike in Plymouth for 25 years. And I believe one of his hands was sent to Boston as a trophy, and then there were other parts of his body that were I guess, sent to other parts of Massachusetts as trophies. Messed up. And I actually got to visit the site where that was, which not fun. Same with Anawan Rock. I got to go to Anawan Rock, which it's very beautiful over there. So another thing about the Hockomock Swamp are puckwedgies. And I am going to get into detail about those, but since I just finished with the Hockomock Swamp, so when Steve and I were there, we were visiting different areas. We went to Anawan Rock and then this place called King Philip's Cave, which is supposedly where King Philip hid out. And then there's like a little lake. It's called the Nip is what people call it, and it's like, I think it's Lake Nippenicket is how you say it, and the deepest it goes is like 8 feet, but a lot of people drown there. So we were walking around that area, and we started walking into the Hockomock Swamp, and I started getting like this nasty feeling in my stomach. Like I was really uncomfortable, and kept thinking something was gonna like run out in front of us or come up behind us and chase us. So I kept like looking around like all paranoid, and I'm just like, it's fine, just keep walking, let's explore, this is cool. And then I think like 20 minutes into the walk, I was like, babe, I can't do it anymore. I can't. My stomach, you know how I get my feelings. And he was like, okay, well, let's try to go for a little bit longer. I'm like, okay. And he's all like, leaf peeping is what people in Massachusetts call people like him. They're like oohing and on over the leaves. So he's like looking around at the leaves and stuff. Okay. And I'm just like, I don't want to die. And then he looks at me. He's like, do you have that EMF thingy with you? I was like, yeah, like EMF detector. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea, because what if there's power there? We walk past power lines, but you know, sometimes EMF, you can feel it from power lines for, I don't know how far, but for a little bit of ways. So that could explain why I didn't feel good. So took the EMF detector out, nothing. No EMF anywhere that we were walking around, which was weird. And then I give it to Steve, it goes to red. And we're like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna hold this for a while. I'm like, okay. So we just kept walking. And there was once or twice where I saw him stop and like look down at it. And then we kept walking. We'd stop and look around at stuff and discuss if we wanted to turn back yet or not. And as we were standing there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask some questions. I'm like, you know, are you a Native American spirit? Nothing. Are you a puckwedgie? Nothing. I'm like, okay. And then Steve was like, is there anybody here? And it went to red. And you know Steve, so yeah.
It's a really good impression. It's such a good impression.
So it went to red, and he was like, I'm like, yeah, that's weird. It won't answer to me, but it answers to you. Okay. And then he was like, are you pissed off about the power lines back there? And it went to red, and he was like, what the hell? And I'm like, I don't know, babe. Let's just keep walking. And then he's like, okay, yeah, I don't know. Let's turn around. I'm like, okay. So we start turning around, and then I feel like he's not behind me anymore. So I stop and I turn around, and he's like 50 feet behind me. And I'm like, what are you doing? I thought we were going. And then I saw him like kind of like jump, and then he's like, oh, nope, we're going, let's go, we're going. And I'm like, okay, don't tell me until we get to the car. So we leave, and then he tells me that 2 of the times that we stopped, he heard something like next to us, and then the EMF detector was going off, and it's when I wasn't looking at it. And then when he was back, you know, behind me 50 feet, he said he was kind of feeling like, I don't know, I kind of want to go back. And as he was thinking that, he heard something run at him, and then the EMF went to red again, and it stayed there. And that's when he was like, nope, we're going. And I was like, okay. And that's interesting. And I was like, I think it could be a puckwedgie, because they love to mess with skeptics or people that don't believe and stuff like that. They like to poke at them. He being him, one of the questions he asked was, he was wearing a Blackhawks hat, and he's like, are you mad about the hat that I'm wearing? And it went to red. So he says he thinks it's a racist ghost.
Can ghosts be racist, guys?
Absolutely. What? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
But, I mean, if it makes him feel better, it makes him feel better. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. But yeah, he's like, nope, it's a Native American that's pissed because I'm white and I'm not supposed to be on his land. So that's
That are like a dedicated like Boston fan.
right. So that was one of the interesting things that happened. That's, as he called it, that was his first full-blown paranormal experience, because he couldn't debunk any of that. Like, if it was the EMF detector kept going off throughout the whole time, okay, there's something weird, whatever. But when I would hold it, it would not go off. When I asked questions, it would not go off. It was only when he held it and he asked questions. So I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. So Puckwudgies. So they're a magical creature who live inside like wooded areas and swamps. And they're considered like spirits of the forest. They can appear and disappear at will. They like to confuse humans, create fire, launch poison arrows, use magic, and lure people to their deaths. They have the ability to shapeshift into different animals like cougars or wolves. They can also turn themselves into a combination of stuff like half human, and then some people have reported seeing like half porcupine type of thing with like a bunch of the pins on the back, and they like a pot belly. They've got a long nose. There's different like depictions of them.
Do they have a bunch of legs? Because for some reason in my head, I'm thinking of a creature that has like extra legs.
No, they're bipedal. 2 legs and 2 arms, even though if they shapeshift, they can, do the 4 legs like a cougar.
Okay, gotcha.
People say if you spot a Puckwudgie, just to leave it alone. Anyone who annoys one will be followed around by the creature and will either fall victim to its like trickery, because they're known to be tricksters, or they will meet a much deadlier ending, which that's what I think happened. Is it wasn't happy we were there. If you annoy a Puckwudgie, then they might kidnap your children, push you off a cliff, attack you with their short knives or spears, use sand to blind you, or persuade you to commit suicide. Which, again, this is stuff from legends as well as now. Let's see. So they're continually found in areas with other forms of paranormal activity. So you won't just see a Puckwudgie in Boston. They're usually around areas where a lot of different activity happens. I guess they have been sighted near Fall River. So that kind of makes sense, since that's where the Lizzie Borden murders were. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Native Americans believe that Puckwudgies used to get along with humans, but then turned against them. And one of the myths with that is because the Wampanoags, I guess you could say creator god, created them and the Puckwudgies, but he favored the humans. So the Puckwudgies started getting mad about that, and they would start messing with the Native Americans by stealing their children, playing tricks on them. They would also they can turn into balls of light, so people would follow them into the forest and never return.
Wow.
So that's something else that they're kind of known to do. Puckwudgie actually translates to person of the wilderness. Let's see. Puckwudgies are the oldest mythical creatures in North America. Stories originate from the Wampanoag, the Mohican, and Algonquin Native Americans. They believe the creatures dwelled in the woods and marshes of the eastern, seaboard area, which I think they've actually been seen as far as certain areas in Pennsylvania. And they're also very, very prone to be in the Freetown/Fall River State Forest. A lot of people just call it the Freetown Forest. Police have actually gotten so many reports that a Puckwudgie crossing sign was erected near the Freetown State Forest. And next time I go there, I'm going to look for that, because I didn't know that before. So the Freetown State Forest is kind of in the southeastern corner of the triangle, because it's by Fall River. So Fall River and Freetown, obviously. It is, I think it's like 5,000 acres. The forest lies mostly in the center of Freetown, dividing a sonnet, which is, I think it's that's a western town, East Freetown and Fall River's northernmost boundary. The forest land includes Profile Rock, which is like a granite. It looks like a Native American's face. Did not get to see that while we were out there. I wish we could have. And supposedly it's like it was carved to look like Chief Massasoit. Let's see. And then the forest has more than 50 miles of unpaved roads and trails for walking, hiking, biking, cross-country skiing. People do dog sledding, off-road vehicles, and equestrian use. So it's really pretty. Then when we were there was roads that you could tell they were for off-road vehicles. You could tell there were hiking roads, and then ones that you could bring your car on. Roads you shouldn't probably bring your car on. The Freetown State Forest has been the location of several crimes, though, and incidents. Due to these events, the forest has become associated with the Bridgewater Triangle. So some of the crimes, and again, warning, explicit stuff going on here. If you're sensitive, cover your earmuffs. In November of 1978, the body of Mary Lou Aruda, a 15-year-old cheerleader who was abducted from Raynham, Massachusetts, that September was discovered tied to a tree in the state forest, and I believe she was decapitated. Her wrists and her ankles were tied behind the tree. And then it says here that James M. Cater of Brockton, previously convicted of kidnapping in 1967, was convicted of the kidnapping and murder of her in 1979. And then there was another person, Barbara Raposa, was found frozen behind a factory with her wrists and ankles tied, and her skull was crushed. And then a couple months later, just the head of a 17-year-old named Kathleen Martin was found. They still have not been able to find her body. They just found her head. All three bodies had evidence of sexual torture as well. And a lot of people think that it has to do with like the satanic cults that are known to be around that area. And I had no idea there was so much cult activity in like Fall River and the Freetown State Forest until doing a little bit more research. I did know there was a little, but yeah, it's really crazy how much cult activity has been going around since like, I think the 70s. There was actually this one area in Freetown that was in the forest that was found by, I think, a hunter. So if you've been there, it's hard to explain, but like it's really, really hilly. And this, I guess you could say, man-made bunker was in one of the hills. Like somebody dug it out and put like support beams in there. So it was like, I think 7 foot by 5 foot. And then there was like a wooden door and branches over it. So unless you knew what you were looking for, you wouldn't be able to see it. So somebody accidentally came across it and then called the police because there was like this little handmade wooden chair that I think only a 4-year-old or younger could sit on. And there was evidence of bindings for like the hands and the head. There was also like clothes that were found, dolls with like the eyes gouged out, and a lot of weird stuff. But since there was no like DNA found, it was just something weird that the police officers were just like, yep, this fucked up. They haven't found anybody like that made it, and they still don't know where it came from or who has anything to do with it. But yeah, it's one of the weird things. And then another interesting thing is, well, I think it's interesting. Some people might find this creepy. I think it was, I gotta look at my notes. Okay, so it was in 1991. 4 teens broke into a mausoleum at the Assonet burying ground that's not far from the forest, and they broke in and took the head off of a woman in the mausoleum because when they got caught, they said they were going to use it to drink from and to get into one of the satanic cults.
What?
Yeah. The head was just found on the road a couple miles away from the burying ground, and I'm not sure how they found the kids that did it, but they found the kids that did it, and that's pretty much what they said was, yeah, we took it to get into a cult, and in cults, supposedly, if you drink from the skull of a human being, it like gives you powers or something, so that's why they did that. So that mausoleum is actually bricked up now, and we did get to go see that.
Actually, you know what? Now that you mention it, this is pseudo related. So one of the biggest Native Americans in the history, whose name is Geronimo, they have rumored to have his entire skeleton in the secret society of the Skull and Bones, and his family has been trying for years to get them to release his remains from that society, but they did read that they're drinking from his skull too, and they're doing it like a trophy. So there is, I have heard of that before, because the Skull and Bone Society do some of that satanic shit, all kinds of coffins and weird confessions inside of a coffin and stuff. We'll cover that a different day.
Right, we'll do a whole episode on that.
Like I had heard of that shit. It is, I have heard of that.
Yeah, I was reading about that. Yeah.
Also, like a serial killer, like Ed Gein, that had like a whole bunch of skulls that were cereal bowls in his house.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And he skinned people.
Yeah, he did a lot of other really nasty stuff.
Don't like Ed Gein. I would rather we not talk.
But he does.
We can talk about Ed Gein. I'm just saying, if body horror is your thing, then cool, but it's not mine.
No.
Also, quick question for Joan. While we were talking about the Pugwudgie, you kept nodding like you knew about it. Like, I've never heard of this stuff, but do you have prior knowledge of this?
Yeah, so they're considered fairy-like creatures. So I learned a lot about them when I did some like research on fairies from around the world, because a lot of nature-based creatures become tricksters as well, and are considered like fairies, gnomes, goblins, and it's at least to me a very interesting phenomenon that people who are not connected with each other, we can debate that a little bit based on like time that's passed and colonization that's happened, but there are loose stories from like basically every continent of some nature-based creature that is like a trickster and protects the forest in different ways. And then also Aaron Mahnke wrote one of his first novels and included the Pugwudgie in it. So that's where I knew about the quill thing. I think it's called like Indian Summer or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Seemed very familiar, and I was like, wow, you already kind of knew about this when I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. There is a lot of creatures that you can find in different cultures that don't always necessarily match the physical descriptions, but the MO is very much the same. So it is kind of interesting how people who are not connected have created similar creatures in their folklore.
Maybe there's some validation to be had there, since just corroborating accounts.
It's like very similar with like Sasquatch. Like different cultures have a version of an ape-like creature.
Sasquatch, skunk ape.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Which Sasquatch is known to be seen around both of these areas, the Hockomock Swamp and Freetown State Forest. So that like I don't know. They have been seen a lot in those areas as well. Same with like I was saying, the Thunderbirds and stuff too, which those have always fascinated me. And one was actually seen by a police officer. So a police officer made the report that he saw a Thunderbird with like a 12-foot wingspan. So it's, I don't know, that stuff's really I love cryptozoology.
I feel like out of all the cryptids, Thunderbirds are probably the most likely to actually be real and true, because we got some big birds out there. Essentially, that's all they are, is giant birds. And I feel like we have a lot of evidence to support it. Like we've got like totem poles, and we've got like even old timey photos that are kind of discredited, but maybe real. Cool stuff.
I'm trying to think what else to cover really quick here.
You have questions from Kimberly Joan? Maybe questions? I don't have any questions.
I think my only question is, like you mentioned that I don't want to say the name wrong, but It's a little fairy thing. Something. Yeah, that doesn't come west of Pennsylvania.
Well, that's supposedly because there was, I think, have you guys watched Paranormal State?
Yes.
Okay, there's an episode where they were investigating a house that was somewhere in Pennsylvania, and that's pretty much what they concluded was there were puckwudgies in the forest behind the house.
Oh.
Yeah, they're mainly known on the east side, but I mean, we don't really know because like Joan was saying, like there's gnomes and fairies and wood spirits, tree spirits, elementals. They have a lot of different names and they're found all over the world. So I mean, there could be puckwudgies past Pennsylvania. We don't know.
You also just the interesting, not saying true camp, not true camp, but considering the animal species we see around, we have American porcupine up in our area. So they're big quilled creatures that you can see that are not so common once you go further and further west.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that being part of the folklore and stuff too. Because I think they're usually 2 to 4 feet tall, which I think Steve did see one. Our first time to Massachusetts last summer, we were in Provincetown and we were driving back, and there was another area over there where I did not feel good, and then I found out later there was a lot of slaughtering here of Native Americans and whales and dolphins. Cool. So the land is soaked in blood.
That's all of Massachusetts and
right, pretty much.
Connecticut.
So I'm researching okay, what was this area before? And then he slams on the brakes and he was like, what the fuck was that? I was like, what'd you see? He's like, I don't know. It was right above the guardrail over there. He said it had tannish brown fur all over it. He said he saw it it was just funny seeing him say this because he's a skeptic. He's like, it put its hand on the guardrail and looked at the car and then it went back. And I was like, oh really? And he was like, it was a deer. It was a deer. I'm like, okay.
We have weird creatures. I mean, everywhere in the States has weird creatures, but we have porcupine, as I said, and I believe they're also nocturnal or whatever the one is dawn and dusk. So it is hard to usually see them clearly. So it's the fun question of, is it the chicken or the egg? Did we come up with folklore to explain porcupine, or did there be something that's disguising itself as something that we commonly know in order to trick us, because they are considered tricksters?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a good point to think about too, because I know growing up, you hear about porcupine and you think something that's the size of a cat, and that's what you see. But I went to a zoo at one point and they had those humongous porcupines, and it shocked me how huge these things
How huge was it?
They're 6 to 8 feet long.
A Volkswagen, basically.
Volkswagen, yes.
If you've only seen the little teeny tiny guys, you should look up the big ones, because they're
do that right now in another window. I want to mute myself so I don't hear my clickety clack in the keyboard.
But I know, for me personally, one of my biggest pet peeves is watching those videos on YouTube that's this is a weird sound, and then I'm listening to it and I'm like, that's a fox, because fox do make awful sounds, but they're very clear. When you know what a fox is, you're like, that's a fox. Or another one that gets a lot of people off is bobcats and mountain lions.
Yeah.
And that is some of the theories about why Appalachia is so scary, why there's talks about if you hear something further away, it actually means it's closer. And mountain lions are fairly silent when they're very close to you. So it's you have to be very aware of where you are and where they are, because they will sneak up on you. So just having that once again, chicken before the egg. Are you supposed to be on alert because there's something supernatural, or have we just been forced to as humans because there's things that do hunt us? We are top predators, but they will eat you.
That's something that we're taught over here too, like especially if you hunt animals in the forest, is like if you hear a woman screaming deep in the forest, you don't go look because
Oh
it's
yeah.
probably a cougar because they
Yes.
sound like women screaming. So
Yes, and so do fox. Fox doing their mating calls sounds like a woman screaming. Deer also have an awful sound. And not here, but just in general, elk's mating calls are so deeply upsetting.
they're weird. They are.
Shout out to Lord Cronus, who's jumping in the chat to say hi. Hi, Lord
Hi.
Cronus.
Oh,
Hi.
I'm talking about animals making sounds and large porcupine.
I'm sure they make an awful sound too.
Porcupine.
Have you ever heard a mouse get caught by an owl?
yeah.
Yeah.
What sound is that?
It's
Is
like
I'll
it's
make a sound
it's
or the
a
owl make a sound?
very high pitched screech sound, but you would not expect to be able to hear it.
Oh,
But
you
you
know what?
can.
Lord Cronus wants to know, what does the fox say? I will say
God.
that I used to own a rabbit when I was a kid. My brother and I, we owned a rabbit together, and his name was Mr. Hoppy. We had him for many years, and he died when we moved because we gave Mr. Hoppy to the neighbor girl while we were moving, and it's like one of the last animals that we were going to take home was Mr. Hoppy. And like the day that we went to collect Mr. Hoppy, he escaped and like ran into her open garage, and like he was hiding under the car, like super scared. And the thing about like rabbits is they have a defense mechanism. Well, it's not really a good defense mechanism, but they have heart attacks very easily. And I'll tell you that we try to grab Mr. Hoppy out from under Dad's car, or her dad's car, and he let out a scream and he died. He let out like a blood curdling. He let out like a blood curdling Hoppy scream. Like, man, I didn't know rabbits could scream like that. But yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
I didn't know that.
I know, like, during my original interview for this show, someone in the chat had asked, like, how would you go out in the woods at night or do something else? And like me being like, I would never go out in the woods, or I said it depends on what woods you're asking me to go out in, but most likely I won't. And not because of anything supernatural. I just know that animals live out there, and worse, sometimes people live out there. That's even scarier.
I remember that. It was a good interview. It was fun.
Thanks. I was there.
It was a fun time. We are rolling up on the hour.
Yeah.
See, is there anything else for this triangle you'd like to cover?
There's so much. Like, just look at it, like how much I do have left. Well, one interesting fact actually is the very first recorded UFO sighting was in the triangle. It was in 1760, and it goes back, I think it was in the Boston Globe, so it's in a paper. And what's written is that a sphere of fire was reported to hover over the New England area so bright it cast shadows like the sun. So I thought that was interesting, the way that it was worded. You could tell it was from back then too. But yeah, UFOs are another big thing out there. They're like lights and stuff. One more like history fact that's cool is the Dighton Rock out there, which is a 40-ton boulder that has a bunch of different etchings on it, and it's been studied, but nobody can really figure out who made it. Like, there's a couple different theories. One is that it's from ancient Native Americans, and then some people have said that it's Norse or Viking. Other people think it could be the ancient Phoenicians, because there's proof that they were here way before the English were here, or the Portuguese. So those are the 4 different theories of who carved the rock, or each of them possibly carved the rock. But it's like huge, and it's really, really, really old. And that is, I think it's located, they moved it because it was in the river in Berkeley, Massachusetts, and they moved it to Dighton Rock State Park. So they made that like a little museum for it in 1971, and they put it there. I didn't get a chance to see it though, because it was closed when we went to go see it. But that's another really cool, like, more history thing instead of paranormal thing about that's out that way. I could talk about this for hours.
You ever headed back out that way at any time?
I I'm hoping maybe August we'd go out that way, but we also are trying to decide if we want to go back to Massachusetts or if we want to go up to like Maine, because I'm dying to see the Acadia National Park out there, because you can see
We actually have a friend of the show who's like, I think, studying to be a park ranger out in Maine.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was a guest on our show the one day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
well,
his name is Matt, but his handle is Elite Sniper M. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. If anybody wants to know more about the Triangle, there is a documentary. I believe it's free on Amazon Prime, and it's on YouTube if you type in the Bridgewater Triangle. Jeff Belanger's in it, and he's written quite a few books that he writes for the Boston Globe. And the guy that directed it actually is a skeptic, but after the documentary, he's kind of like, I don't know, because they had some weird shit happen while they were filming. So the Bridgewater Triangle, not the Bridgewater Triangle, the portal. That one, whoever did that, it is horrible. I can only sit through a half hour of it, and I gotta turn it off.
Why? Is it just bad?
Yeah, the filming's bad. The sound is bad. The way they portray things is like really cheesy. So I can't do it.
Sounds like this podcast. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding.
So funny.
I'll show myself out. Do you want to start closing it up, Jessiy, or do you want to? What do you want to do? You're at the helm here.
Yeah, we can start closing it up. I mean, like I was saying, that I could talk about this for hours, but I got most of the key points in. Then obviously the documentary, I learned a lot of that from that documentary. It's really good. And then one of the other things that I got some information from, it is a book called Dark Woods, Cults, Crime, and Paranormal in the Freetown State Forest by Christopher Balzono. He was actually in the documentary as well. He has a couple books out, so I got a lot of my information from that too.
Wonderful. All right, so let's go around the old room here and do some final thoughts. Who wants to go first?
I never go first, so I can go first. Final thought. If you're in my area, apply to be a host, because you'll be by me and you'll be safer from puckwudgies. Because
sounds like a reason.
I think that's a good I think it's a great reason. Joan, what do you got? What do you got for us, Joan? Thanks for joining us tonight on your day off.
Welcome. My final thoughts is that once again, I'm just fascinated by how many similar creatures folklore shares. And thanks for sharing a little bit more insight on that. Also, maybe wondering if we should talk about the other triangle that is in New England, being the Bennington Triangle in Vermont, where I went to college.
Oh.
I was sitting here going, Bermuda.
Yeah, everybody thinks
that's not in New England, though.
I know. Until you said New England, and I was like, oh man, no, I was wrong.
On the next episode, we teach Kim a little geography, just a teeny bit.
Yeah, not good at geography. Nope.
You don't need geography. Listen, guys. If we do geography, we're just going to turn this into an educational podcast, because we had the weather earlier. Then we're going to have geography and shapes. Next time we're going to have math.
Okay.
Great. Jessiy, do you want to give a final thought?
I guess, well, this is my first topic on a podcast, kinda, so, it was fun, even though it was a little nerve-wracking with everything being deleted today, but was a trooper, and, it was a lot of fun, and I could talk about this all day. I will be on another podcast next Tuesday talking about the same type of stuff. I gotta get more info on that. I have, like, a little bit of info, but, I'll be posting it on my Facebook if anyone's Facebook friends with me.
We'll also share it here. We're an equal podcast opportunist. You can promote yourself and your appearance.
So, yeah, maybe next Monday I'll have more details because it's the day after ours.
Oh, okay.
By the way, you did an amazing job. So thank you so much for sharing with all of us all that information. That was great.
I would also like to piggyback off of that and say wonderful job. I did actually learn a lot. I feel like there were things that I was interested in as far as some of that goes, especially Pugwudgies, where like I knew of them, but I didn't know a lot of them or
You
about
enjoyed
them.
Steve shitting his pants.
Who's shitting their pants?
I said you enjoyed Steve shitting his pants.
Because I know him and I know his personality, I can confirm that a lot of what you said sounds like him. I think especially when he's like asking about his hat, or like if he's asking about like normal everyday things, he's not trying to get into the mysticism. He's like, do you not like my hat? Like that's totally,
Yeah.
that's him. But yeah, so for all of the listeners and viewers, thanks Lord Cronin's for joining us for the last few minutes and sending us hearts. Everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Next week, we're going to hopefully have Paige Senpai and Stormfrog on to do some tarot cards. You know, if you like tarot cards, you want to learn more about the 12 of Cups, join us then. We'll be in there. Also, like Kimberly said, apply to work with us. If you're interested and you live in the Pacific Northwest, that would be ideal, as we're trying to build the team in different parts of the country. I think right now the count is 3 in New York, New Jersey area. We've got 3 in Chicago. So we've got Shayna, Joan, James in New York, New Jersey area. You've got me, Jesse, and our new legend, who I'm not going to mention, in Chicago. Midwest. And then,
East Coast, Midwest, West Coast.
Pacific side. Actually, if you're watching the stream, it's that way. Pacific side, you've got Kimberly.
Oh, I was throwing up letters, but yeah, go ahead.
If you want to join a gang, please subscribe to Joan's newsletter. She's going to teach how to make those gang symbols, and we'll see you all next week.
That's one of the lessons. That's like 4 weeks from now. We've done math. We got to do that.
You know what? I heard that Joan used to be a teacher.
I quit. I was just going to say, I quit teaching.
But teaching looks like teaching didn't quit you.
Can never quit, apparently.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.
Bye.